Hi everyone. So Sophie's asked me to do a quick basic power tutorial. So here we are. If you find this of any help, let me know. But yeah, we're just going to crack straight into it.
Where's the start?
Well, it's not very big, but I made a door with power. Look, like, whee! Alright, so if you would have coming in, so obviously this is going to be very, very basic. So there's not a lot to go through, because obviously we're not covering anything too in-depth. But we'll cover the absolute, like, bare minimum you need to know. So
What is that? Never
I
seen that before.
we'll go through it. We'll go through it. Okay, so to start with, obviously, we're talking about, well, obviously we work in watts and kilowatts. Um, you will see references to megawatts, but not a lot. So obviously, kilo you know means 1,000. So when we talk about 1 kilowatt, we're talking about 1,000 watts. So
So what's a megawatt?
a megawatt is 1,000 kilowatts. Because mega is a
Okay.
thousand. But obviously you can't get too confused with things. So you've got watt, kilowatt, megawatt. Don't worry about megawatt too much. It's mentioned that once or twice in the Stationpedia. Nothing really more than that.
But what is it? Sorry, ten
So
thousand watts.
so a kilowatt is 1,000 watts.
Mm-hmm.
A megawatt is 1,000 kilowatts.
Okay.
Now, moving power around your base is done. There's basically two cables. You've got the normal cable. You've got the heavy cable. The normal cable can transfer up to 5 kilowatts, 5,000 watts. The heavy cable, which is the slightly more expensive version. So for the normal cable, you're using half a gram of copper. For the heavy cable, using the copper plus half a gram of gold. A bit more expensive. In the long term, in the end game, it's not really an issue. But short term, obviously, there's a bit of a cost there. The heavy cable can transfer 100 kilowatts. So it's a huge amount more. um, but they're basically
So what's that? 10,000 watts?
100,000,
100,000 watts.
a hundred
Oh,
thousand
that's a
watts. Yeah,
shit, isn't it?
yeah. So
10,000 watts.
they're basically the
Okay.
primary way you are going to transfer power. Now there is also a way of transferring power wirelessly. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
you've got devices like this here, and this is an a power transmitter omni. Basically, you can print out, and we'll go through this later, you can print out wireless batteries, and they act as a receiver, and you can send power to those batteries via one of these.
Are they
So,
expensive?
um, yeah, it's not something you'd build on day one. They're not too bad. I think you need the, one second, I'm just
So what is
checking.
it, like a wireless power receiver that receives it from the battery?
This sends the battery this sends the power to the battery.
Okay.
So this is the transmitter, your battery is the receiver. Speaking of that, you've also got these. Now, I'm not going to go into these in too much detail. I'm just
Just
waiting for it.
going back to the transmitter,
hmm
when would you use that as opposed to
So,
just wiring it in?
so for example, on your tools that you'd only use around your base, so in your labeler, in your hand drill, those kind of things, you would have wireless batteries inside of those because you're not going to use them out and about, and you just put a wireless battery in, dot a few of these around your base, and they will never run out of power. As long as you've got this within range, it'll just keep them charged. They don't have a massive range. I think it's about, I'm going to say 5 or 6 blocks, maybe. You'll need a fair few of these dotted about. But
So you'd plug like that into the battery, your station battery.
uh, we'll set up a system, but you'd have these somewhere on the maybe on the output of your batteries to keep this powered. But
Okay, that's quite a good idea.
don't worry too much about that at the moment. This is like just power transfer, so don't worry about how you would set this up yet. The other way of transferring power is with these bad boys.
Wait, I'm taking notes. Wait.
Just taking
Sorry.
notes. Look.
Literally writing it down as well. Trying to
Yes.
learn.
The reason
Right,
we're
go
doing
on.
this tutorial is basically because Sophie's on a single player world and she asked me whether she was missing anything basic with the power. So I figured we're just going to go through the core concept of power in the game. So Madonna, if you look over here,
So what's the air conditioner there for?
wait.
Oh, sorry.
Slowly.
So what are these? I've never seen these before.
No, these I don't use. I've used them once because I wanted to try and figure it out, but they're not worth the hassle. These are a way of you transferring power between locations. So let's say, so this one on the left, this is the receiver. The one on the right is the transmitter. What you can do is you feed power into this guy, and over a long distance, it can transfer power to this guy. So you could connect two bases together wirelessly via
Instead of
power.
having shit tons of cable.
Yeah. Now, the problem I find with these is that they have to have line of sight. They've got to line up perfectly. So in a straight line, they're not that bad. But if you've got a base that's just off by a block, and then you have to try and get those two lined up, it's an absolute pain in the bum.
Can't you build them both up so they're both...
Yeah, you can build them both level and do whatever. There's also the issue of the distance between them means it costs more to transfer the power. So, for example, to transfer a kilowatt of power, you might have to provide this with like 1.5 kilowatts of power. So you're going to lose power just by transferring it wirelessly. In all
Oh.
honesty, there's no real reason to use these because I don't think many people are building multiple stations. You're basically building one station. There's no reason to do that in the game. They've kind of removed all requirements of having multiple, because you used to have vehicles, you could go to different places. But with things like the deep drill, where it can infinitely mine ore, and just with how the game currently is, there's no reason to travel. So there's no reason to have multiple bases.
Are they bringing the traveling back, do you know?
Well, with the update that's coming soon, obviously they're gonna make the terrain nice. It might be that you want different bases in different locations, just because of the view. So it might be that these potentially become a bit more used, but I won't count on it.
So going back to your cables,
Mm-hmm.
you've got your heavy and your normal. Is there... Obviously, you say you can carry the for like the 5 and the 100 kilowatts.
Yep.
But is there a distance like they'll only take it so far, or is it just unlimited?
I think it's unlimited. You run a cable as long as you can, and it'll work. Um, and I don't think there's any power loss either. So I don't think there's any negative to running a really long cable, or not one that I've noticed anyway.
Okay.
If there is a loss, it's tiny.
So have you ever used the power transmitter omni things?
Yes, I do use these. I'm using these currently on my Venus playthrough at the moment.
Yeah, they're quite a nice idea, like you said about your tools and stuff around the base.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's obviously a different form of transferring. Most of the time, though, you're going to use cables. For anyone who's new to the game, it's basically very easy. You're going to start with the normal cable coil. To place it on the floor, you literally need to place it in your hand and right click. And then you can scroll your mouse wheel to go through all the different variants. So, for example, I can connect these two devices up. There you go. And then what I can do is I can connect further devices to this just by pressing C and just rotating the cable. You'll notice here that you can't place a cable. It's because there's already a cable there. If you want to, put your wire cutters in your second hand, and that will allow you to splice cables without having to remove one. Any devices that you're connecting normally have at least one port. So this one's got a power port, this one's got a data port separate. Whereas on these two devices, if you hover over it, it will tell you that it provides a data and a power connection. I can't actually see it there. Oh, so the tooltip provides power, provides data, whereas some devices have separate ports. So just keep that in mind, depending on whatever you're building. Right, but darling, there is a tablet.
It also, so say you have three things connected, and you take off one, or you've got a little bit of cable that you take off, everything will go off, won't it? It like flashes.
Yes, so any changes to your power network kind of causes that power network to reset.
Like even if you're just taking one off because it's like a freeway and it don't need to be.
Yeah, so if I go up here, so for example on the lights, if I go and take a cable out, obviously if those ones have gone off, if I reconnect these ones, the ones that were on flick for a second. Because you're
So
making...
if you're making something in a machine, would that stop its progress?
Yes. So be very careful if you're printing something and
Okay.
making changes, because everything for a second restarts. It'll affect things like your IC housing, so any coding you've got, if you've got any timers in your coding, this will cause those timers to restart. So just be mindful of that, really. It's
So
another...
how do you prevent that?
If you're in the middle of something, you wait, or you
How do you
seg...
know where your code's going to be?
Well, that's another thing. The another way of preventing it is segregate your networks, but we're going to move on to that later.
Okay.
So
I
don't worry
didn't
about
think
that
of that.
right now. So if you want to pick that tablet up, that's in the locker. That is yours. Now,
Oh, I've
if you...
seen this one before.
So this is the advanced tablet. This allows you to put 2 cartridges in it.
Hmm.
And I've also put a wireless battery in there for you. So this tablet will not run out of power because I've put these wireless chargers throughout the base.
What's the programmable chip you can put in it?
You can...
Sorry, I know this is off topic,
No,
but
no, that's fine. You can code the tablet so it can receive sound signals. So there's a transmitter in the game in which you can send and receive. Well, you can read and write data to and from the tablet. So we've been told before where if you have your weather station up, your tablet can alarm if there's a weather, well, if there's a storm coming.
even if you're outside.
It'll just connect to the tablet wirelessly. It's
Oh,
a homemade Wi-Fi signal. I don't know, but yeah, that's what this is. We'll get onto these at some point in our other saves, I think, just to kind of show you how they work and whatever. But with these tablets, so I've put in a network analyzer card, which allows you to point at a cable or a device, and you can read information about it. So if you point at this cable,
which one? This one on the
yep,
floor.
so you'll see that there's currently 3 devices on the network.
So is this the normal network analyzer card that you can get in the normal one as well?
Yes,
It's
I've
not
just...
for the advanced.
Yeah, no. I've just
Yeah.
got the advanced tablet because I had it from our IC tutorial. But yeah, so you can see we've got 3 devices. They're all unpowered because obviously we've got no power generation on here. We can see that network requires 10 watts, and there's potential for 0 and there's actual of 0. So the required is the total amount of power that all the devices on that network needs to operate properly. Now the actual and potential are both 0 because we're not making any power. Now we're going to move on to potential because I'm going to show you how that works later. But for now, we're going to use this network analyzer throughout the rest of the tutorial just to kind of see what's happening here, there, and everywhere.
So it'd only take 10 watts to power everything,
At a
all 3 of
minimum.
those devices.
At a minimum. So devices, so if you look at the air conditioner in your Stationpedia.
Air conditioner.
Mm-hmm. And
Yep.
once you've found that, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that it has a base power usage of 10 watts.
Oh yeah.
That base power is what it will use all the time, even if it's not actually doing anything. If that device is turned on, it wants 10 watts. So if I turn it off, and then you look at the cable, you'll now see that we have a required power of 0 watts. So even with...
So
Sorry,
the
go on.
console and the diode slide,
They
what,
don't have a
don't need
base...
any power.
They don't... well, no, they use power, but they don't have a base power.
So the console's on, but it hasn't got a base power.
Yeah, so that's only going to use
Why?
power when it's doing something. It just depends on the device. Like, if an AC is plugged in...
Oh no, but the Stationpedia says the base power usage is 50 watts for a console.
Yeah, but that console hasn't been completely built yet, so I haven't put like a chip in it or anything. So you might
Oh.
find that if I was to put the glass on it, maybe then it would. Let's try it. If I just get some glass, complete the console. Yeah, now if you look at the cable, it's 50 watts. So the devices that you're connecting need to be in a complete state in order for them to work. I've just turned the AC on, now you can see it's gone up to 60 watts. So that is if we didn't program any of these. If the AC was just powered but didn't have any pipes, it's still using power. Or it still wants to
Okay.
use power. So just bear that in mind. This is why when you're plugging cables into a transformer, you don't necessarily set it to the maximum, because the transformer is going to use some power as well, just for it to work. But again, we'll move on to those later. But yeah, so we're going to use this advanced tablet anyway.
Dark in
Now,
here.
it is dark in here, so you're going to have to turn your light on, because obviously we've timed this really well. So we're going to move on to passive power generation.
Can you make it
So
daytime?
I don't know how to do that. Are you joking? So we've spoken about moving power around, but we need to produce that power. Now, passively, it's done via solar panels or wind turbines. These are devices that you can put up, and they require little or no maintenance. They will just work. So when you start on a new world, depending on the world, you'll spawn in with either the basic solar panels.
Can't get my light on.
Press L. Or spawn in a battery if it's not working. I bet you run out of power, haven't you?
I'm breathing funny. How do I spawn stuff in?
So you press your forward slash, and then search for battery, and then just find the nuclear battery. Just click on the plus button, and that'll spawn it in front of you. I've just done one for you there.
Thanks, because I can't light it.
But yeah, pop that into your suit, and you should be able to turn your light on. Let's let you over. Throw that dead battery away. Okay, so as I was saying, when you spawn in on a new world, turn around. You potentially start with these solar panels, or you start with these solar panels. The fixed ones are cheap and cheerful. You place them down, and they will
You
just
didn't start with those ones.
depend on the world.
Oh, I've got like a
Um,
little red one.
so when you got yeah,
A basic.
that is these, but they're just different color. But these are the basic solar panels. So these are
Why didn't I
fixed.
believe you?
Well, I don't know, because you just don't believe people. So you've got two variants. You've got the one that just sticks directly up, and you've got an angled one. And when you're placing this, obviously you can rotate it and point it wherever you need to. These will only produce a maximum of 500 watts of power at any time, but that is if they are getting 100% efficiency. You're probably not going to get 100% efficiency on these,
Say that again,
because
sorry. 500 watts.
500 watts is the absolute maximum that these will generate, but that is at 100% efficiency. The sun would have to be perfectly over this one, like directly above it, or kind of in line with this one to get that. So don't expect too much power from these at all.
So is that 500 watts like per day? If there was 100% all
So
day or
I
per
knew
day?
you were going to ask this, and this is what I'm going to struggle to explain. The way power works, and again I'm probably going to get slated for this, is that a solar panel will produce 500 watts. Now that is at any time. So obviously whatever that solar panel sees it's generating is what it's generating at that point.
Mm-hmm.
As it's just a constant generation. Like it's every, as an example, every millisecond it's providing that amount of power. That's what it's producing.
But
It's
the max it will ever produce at one time is 500.
Yes, depending on the efficiency. So it's
Okay,
not
makes
500 in
sense.
the day, it's whatever the amount is at that moment.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, so these ones are what you'll start with. Depending on the world, that you may start with one of these ones. And what these ones allow you to do is, obviously using a wrench, you can direct them to point to the sun. Whenever you start in the game, you're obviously going to manually adjust these. But later down the line, you can use some IC coding, and you can automate the solar tracking using a sensor alongside these. These as well will only produce 500 watts as a maximum, but you're more likely to hit that with these when you're solar tracking. I don't think you'll ever hit 500 because it's got to be perfect, but you'll normally be like around the 480 mark at a maximum. Again, though, it depends on the world. Some worlds have good solar power, Others, the sun's quite distant, so you're not going to hit that maximum amount of power. Such as Mimas. If you're playing on Mimas, it's best just not to even bother with solar panels. Although I'm tempted to have a look at just what you do generate, just out of curiosity. But that's something we'll do on our save.
Thought you'd already done that.
I didn't put one down because everyone told
Oh.
us not to, but I'm just curious.
So can I? Oh, go on.
Don't know. Go on.
I was going to ask about the single and dual.
Yes. So
That
this.
how you said?
Yep. So there's two different variants. So you've got the one where both the power and the data are on a single port, and then you've got this one where you've got the power and the data on separate ports. There is no difference in power generation. It's just personal preference on how you want to set up your solar networks. So if you are someone who's going to split your data, so the logic from the power, then you'd use this one. I'll just use this one. It's just personal preference. It doesn't matter in the slightest. It's still going to provide power. You're not going to lose any power depending on which one you pick.
I thought you weren't meant to cross your data and your power.
Um, in the
Why
setup
would
that
you ever use a single one?
it just depends on how you're working it. If you're going to put your power and data onto the same line, just use this one. There's no negative to either of them. It just depends on how you are setting up your base. It's complete personal
So
preference.
if the solar panels are its own network, you could just use the single one.
Yes, if there's nothing else on that network and you're just going to put the IC circuit on that network, just use the single one. It's absolutely fine.
So
Doesn't
why
matter.
do we always use the dual ones?
It's just habit. It's just what I've always done. I've always split my logic from my power. But yeah, in your own world, have a play and just see what you can and can't figure out, and we'll kind of go from there. So if you pull your tablet out and you have a look at that cable on this solar panel, the single, you'll see that currently we're generating 67 watts. Now
Mine's a six. Mine's a 7.
Oh yeah,
21,
it's going up.
22.
So if I was to rotate the solar panel, you should see that start increasing. The tool
But why
to
is that potential and not actual? If it's what it's producing.
So we're gonna touch on that because I'm gonna show you an example. But basically, potential is how much power you can get out of that solar panel if needed. Actual is what you're using of it. So actual is 0 because we've got nothing connected. Potential is what that solar panel could provide you with currently. So if I was to get a device to that needed 500 watts, we would be using all of that potential. Make sense?
Yeah, I'm writing it down.
I'm going to show you it later because I learned while I was building this, I learned something which I didn't realize is how it worked, but I'll show you.
So
So go on.
do you actually when you're obviously studying, you're pulling all your base together, do you actually look at all your thingies and say, right, this is how much power I'm going to need, this is how many solar panels I need to put on?
No, to be honest, your power network will always just grow as time goes on. What I tend to do is I'll just build a fair few solar panels, depending on the world, fair few solar panels, fair few wind turbines, and I'll just work with that until I start struggling. Then I'll go and I'll increase my power generation.
Imagine you're struggling, your battery's not up.
If your batteries are discharging, so you're not gaining any power, or if everything goes off, you go, yeah, I wasn't producing enough power. I mean, if you wanted to, you could make power generation the first thing, and you just make a massive power generation section, but you don't really have time because you've got other things to be worrying about. So I kind of do a few, I'll wait until I need it, I'll build a few more, etc, etc. But yeah, so the only other thing to mention about solar panels is when you're placing any of them, make sure you put the glass in. If I put this solar panel down, just from the locker, it does not have the glass sheet in, and this will produce 0 power without it. So don't forget to do it. Just pick up your glass, put it into the solar panel, and that will now produce power. I've done it a few times where I forgot to put glass in, come out and notice it like days later and gone, oh yeah, that's not been doing anything. So yeah, just bear that in mind whenever placing these.
So I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but which way round do you face them?
I'm not going to touch on that because it's not really this. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Um, the when you're dabbling with them, obviously when you're writing your code, you just need to deduct or add degrees to it depending on the rotation of them. Um, I'm pretty sure, and I might be saying this wrong. I'm pretty sure on Mars we figured out that if the power port on the solar panel points to 0 degrees, then to not do any deduction or adding, you need to have the port on the daylight sensor point to 90. If you have them both pointing the same way, I think you just need to deduct 90. But you're going to have a play with that and figure it out yourself to kind of understand what it is you're doing there.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a bit outside of this, isn't it? Sorry.
no, that's fine. I mean, if you want to, we can quickly try and set one up later and just see what happens. That's fine. But moving on. So obviously these solar panels are great, and then you've got the heavy versions of those same solar panels. They
Don't think we've
provide.
ever made them.
Nope, we haven't. They are expensive, and to be honest, not really worth it. They don't provide any more power than the standard ones. The only difference is that they don't take damage in storms.
It's the only difference.
Yeah, they will provide the same amount of power. If you point them both the same, it's exactly the same. It's just that storms will not affect them. But to be honest, the cost of those, for the sake of going out and just repairing your solar panels, I don't think it's worth it myself. Maybe in the long-term game where you can't be bothered to go repair anymore, then if you've got the resources, make them. Otherwise, just repair or put these solar panels in a glass box, and they won't take
So,
damage from
wait,
storms.
so go back. So if you're on a planet where there's a storm, both
Hmm.
of these will take damage, both types.
Yes.
And
Whereas those hardened ones will not take damage.
but you have to totally take it down and put it back up.
That's the cheating way of repairing, which I think most people do. The other option is
Okay.
you can use glass or duct tape to repair them.
You
But
didn't tell me it was a cheating way.
well, I mean, I think it probably is a cheating way, to be honest. It doesn't make sense, does it? Oh, my solar panel was damaged. Let me dismantle it and put it back up. Oh, now it's fixed. Doesn't really make sense, does it? But you can repair them. I can't remember if it's duct tape and glass, but when it's damaged, you walk up to it and it will tell you what it needs to be repaired.
Okay.
But if you can't be bothered to do that in the late game, just use your heavy ones.
Okay.
So that's solar panels, and then moving on to wind. So any planet that has an atmosphere, you can use turbines. So that is Mars, Europa, Vulcan, Venus, and then modded planets. You can put turbines, and you'll passively generate power. Now, what you'll notice on these is that I've used heavy cable. It's just for demonstration, but my advice would be, if you're using wind, go heavy. Because the power that they generate fluctuates. It's very easy to blow your cables with these. Very easy. So I've put up there the upright turbine can generate. Well, I put 200 watts, but there's times when it will generate less than that. Up to 10,000. The Stationpedia does not say that. They've not updated the Stationpedia, so just be careful. It's part of the one of the recent changes. I think the Stationpedia says that the upright turbine generates up to 800 watts,
Which
but
one's the upright turbine? That the
this one,
smaller one?
yeah, the Stationpedia says 800 watts, but it's not. It's up to about 10,000 or 10 kilowatts. So just be very careful when using these with your normal. To be honest, I would never use any turbines with normal cable. You might have to at the start of the game, but if that storm comes and you've not replaced your cable, it's going to blow. So heavy cable whenever you're dealing with wind.
That'll be 10 kilowatts in a storm.
Up to. It depends on the planet, for one, and turbines fluctuate the amount of power that they generate. So if you look at the cable with your tablet, what you'll see is that the power generation is going down. So you can see that the potential is dropping. That's because they peak and then they drop. they peak and then they drop. It's a little bit repetitive, or no, it's very repetitive. I think there's about 4 different peaks it'll do. And it's just because in theory it's unlimited power and they don't want it just to come through at like full. So now you'll see it starts going up again because it hits 0. And that's what it'll
Does it
do.
always go down to 0?
No, I don't think it always goes down to 0, but it will always go down and then it'll go back up again.
So if you can put 100 kilowatts onto a heavy cable, that means in a storm.
So the upright ones, you can probably get away with 10. Now I say probably because there may be times when the game is calculating it might go over 10,000. If it does, it'll blow your cable. So I would say a general rule is always go 1 less on whatever you're doing. Because this cable can handle 100 kilowatts and a turbine can handle up to 10,000. So you might just go, oh, well, that's 100 kilowatts divided by 10 kilowatts is 10. So I can put 10 turbines. I would go 9. I would give yourself some leeway just to give you some space just in case of anything like an issue develops or whatever. That's my personal advice. You can max it out if you want to, but if it blows, then, you know.
So that's 9 of those on a heavy cable with nothing else attached. So it'll be overkill when there isn't a storm.
Yeah, when there isn't a storm, a lot of that cable is not going to get used. You're obviously only going to be producing whatever you're producing, and you've got a lot more capacity. But it's safe, ready for the storm.
So what I don't then understand is how do you have 9 upright turbines on one bit of cable? However many solar panels. Oh yeah, how many solar panels can you put on cable then?
So a solar panel can generate a maximum of 500 watts. To be honest, you're probably never going to get that on any solar panel.
Yeah, because that's maxing it 100% constantly. It'd have to be.
And only some planets, not all the planets. So that on Europa, I don't think you'll get that. Maybe at midday, but yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. But 500 watts. So all you want to do is divide 100,000 by 500, which is I think about 500 solar panels. That was quick math, if that's right.
So you can have like 10 solar panels on normal cable.
I would go 9. Like I said, always go 1 less. But in theory,
I know, but it's unlikely because it's unlikely all 9 are going to have 100% efficiency.
Well, it's unlikely, yeah. So you could put 10 onto a standard cable.
Go 9 just in case.
But if at any point during the day every single solar panel generates 500 watts, you might blow that cable.
So how many is it on Vinger ever?
On heavy, I think it's 500.
500?
500 solar panels. Now, I don't think you'd ever do that because I think at that point there's a chance that your game might start lagging. If it's trying to get 500 solar panels or track the sun. But
so
give it a go, see what happens.
So maybe you just got a shit computer. So going back to...
Computer's better than yours, mate.
Yeah, because mine's a laptop, so it should be. Going back to 9 upright turbines on the heavy cable. How do you then separate your 10 solar panels from your 9 heavy cable if they're going into a battery?
So we'll do a little bit of a setup later on that. It's probably easier to show you than it is to explain that to you. So yeah, don't worry. We will do that at the end.
Okay, thank you.
So the other turbine is the big one, which are probably the ones that I try and aim for if I can. Now, these big ones can generate up to 20,000 watts. So you really don't want to be putting more than 5 of these on a heavy cable. Again, I would say go 4. But what you could do
What are these ones called, sorry?
These are just called wind turbines.
Oh.
These are the big ones, the upright ones are the small ones. But yeah, up to 20,000 watts, depending on the planet.
Is that during storm?
Yes. You're not going to get 20,000 watts just day to day on them. I think if we look at this at the moment, we're getting 260 watts and it's dropping. But
That's 20 kilowatts, yeah?
Yes. correct. So in theory, 5 of them on a heavy cable. I would only ever put 4 myself, but that's just because I'd rather be safer than sorry.
Do
But
you ever
yeah,
have a mixture of just normal and upright?
it just depends on your resources, really. I mean, these ones are a little bit more difficult to place because they have quite a large collision box, so you've got to have the space for them. Whereas the upright ones, you can fit a couple of these pretty close together. But you could mix and match them. You could have, if you wanted to, go 4 of the large turbines. That'll take you to 80 watt, and you could put 1 of the small ones in, or 2 of the small ones. So you could use the small turbines just to kind of fill in the gaps if you really wanted to.
So do these fluctuate as well?
Yes, they do. So you'll be able to see the difference between them. So you've got one that the large one's generating 240, the small one's generating just under 100. So there is quite a big difference. It's almost generating double the power of the small one. So it's definitely worth, and they're not even that expensive to be fair. I think they're just a bit of steel. So they need steel sheets to be produced, to be built. Oh no, sorry. So it's copper, steel, and electrum. But to be honest, that's all easy. Electrum's one of the easier alloys to make. Copper and steel obviously are also easy. So
I was just looking, the upright one, you just make and put it straight up, don't you? You don't have to build it once it's put up.
yeah, that is just a kit. So if I just grab, that's the wrong button. So if I go turbine, and we just spawn a couple of those out. They are literally just a case of just placing them. Ready to go, already providing power, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
But you need tier 2 for the big one. On the
Yes, you need,
electrified print now, but you can do tier 1 on the other one.
yes, correct.
Okay.
But to be fair, these upright turbines are cheap enough. You can just spam them if you really wanted to. Put 9 or 10 on a heavy cable and you'll be good for a long time. Well, if you're able to take the power during a storm.
So at what point would you move and think, all right, I've got loads of upright ones, let me upgrade them to normal?
When you can.
Okay.
Just it doesn't matter. If you really wanted to, you could play the entire game using just the upright ones. But the large ones, I think they just look nicer, and obviously they're going to generate you a lot more power. So,
What other planets have a atmosphere?
you've got Mars, Europa, Vulcan, Venus, and then some modded planets have atmosphere as well. Mimas, the asteroid belt, and Moon don't have atmosphere, so you can't use a wind turbine on them.
So if you're on a planet with atmosphere, would you have more wind turbines than you would solar panels?
I do. I just find it easier because they don't require any repairing.
You don't
Um,
have to IC them up either, do you? Just bang them down.
bang them down, yeah, they'll just work, and they generate power during the night.
But do they keep you going day to day between storms?
With enough of them, yeah.
And to know you've got enough of them, you just have to check on your batteries every now and again.
Yeah, and just see, have I got loads of power? No, right, and we're going to put some more wind turbines up.
Oh, that's
Um,
easier, isn't it?
Obviously, during the day, you'll find that the solar panels are probably more efficient because they'll generate you whatever, like 300 watts, whereas the turbines are up and down, up and down, up and down. But my answer to that is just put more wind turbines up.
I suppose a mixture of both is ideal.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have backup. Um, but yeah, it's kind of personal preference, really. You can only use solar panels on like the moon, Mimas. So you have to use them there, but if you want to make sure on Europa, just do a bit of both. It's fine. So that's the passive generation. Now we've just got another 4 to cover. So the first one is kind of passive as well, although it needs a little bit of setup. So that is I can't remember what it's called, a turbine generator. What this does is this will generate power just based on it moving, and you move it by pushing gas through it. So as an example, you could create a wind tunnel, and let's say you were dumping gas out of your base, like you got loads of pollutant and you want to get rid of it. If you put that vent in a wind tunnel and put 1 or more of these in it, these will generate a little bit of power for you. So you're dumping the pollutant and you're gaining something from it.
How'd you make a wind tunnel?
Just to make a tunnel. So like say you just, I don't know, frames or walls or whatever to make a big long tube.
Then how'd you push them down it?
So if you had the vent at the end, when you are like, say you're taking gas out of your base and you're going to push it through an active vent that's outside, obviously it's going to push that air out and it's going to equalize with the outside. So then it'll push the air out of the tunnel. If that tunnel contains a turbine, you'll generate a little bit of power from that.
Is that easier than it sounds?
It doesn't sound hard. Uh,
Just me then.
no, literally, like if you just like if you did come out here, like for example, if I was just to create a tunnel, so I was just to bring this across, like so.
Obviously, I imagine them all welded.
Yeah, I mean obviously they're welded.
Mm.
Now, obviously, I wouldn't go out of your way to create one of these. I would say this is a little bit more passive than anything. But if I was to weld these up, 1 moment. You want to come inside my tunnel?
Try them. Right.
So obviously, let's say this frame over here, this was the wall of my base.
Mm-hmm.
And in my base, for whatever reason, I need to dump some shit outside. I don't want it. I've got excess or it's pollutant or whatever. I could have a vent here that sucks out of my base, or it could be a passive vent that just allows me to push things
Push
through,
through.
and it goes into this wind tunnel. If I've got that generator in here, the gas is going to travel through that generator, and it's going to make it spin, and that will produce a bit of power.
But how strong does it have to be? Pushing out.
Yeah, so it's not really worth it. What I would say is, if you're bothered and you want to you don't want to waste anything, do it. I don't bother. I've never really made them. It is possible to create infinite power using this. You just need a lot of the wind turbines, because you could push that air through 7 or 8 of those turbines and the more generate power. In theory, if you built a tunnel where you had an active vent on one side, passive vent on the other, or you were just cycling the same air
Just
round
round
and
in a
round,
circle.
and it's going through the generators, all you've got to do is make sure you're generating more power than that active vent uses.
But is it worth it when you can just bang a few wind turbines up?
No, not at all. I don't think it's worth it. I'd never bother. It's just if you wanted to. It's an option. That's all.
Are they expensive?
Um, let's have a look. They cost iron, gold, copper, and solder. So, I mean, I'm going to say they're not worth it. The amount of power you're going to get off them, unless you're wanting to kind of finick the game and like go for an infinite power source, I wouldn't bother it. I wouldn't waste my time. They're just there as an option if you want to. The next one, so you've got the solid fuel generator. So on most worlds, you will start with this unless you do a brutal start. And this very simply will take coal in the input. If you turn it on, it will generate power. This will generate 20 kilowatts of power. It doesn't care if you're using it, it's going to generate it. If you leave it on, you don't need it, you're wasting your coal. So what you can do is, using the logic port, you can automate this. So if the power in your battery says it drops below 20%, you could program this to turn on, and it kind of comes on as your backup generator.
Is there anything but coal that you can put in it?
Yeah, you can put coal, you can put charcoal. I think that's about it.
How'd you get charcoal?
Charcoal is a byproduct, so if you put biomass into a furnace, you will get charcoal.
Oh.
And like way down later into the game, you'll do that to produce water, to make your own water. So you'll get coal, which you can use for power, which you'll get charcoal, which you can use for power. So it's quite a nice circle. This you will probably use when you're first starting, or if you're new to the game, you'll definitely want to use it, because it will solve your power problems. As long as you can find coal, power is not an issue in the short term.
So how much does this make, sorry?
Up to 20 kilowatts. which is a lot. It's more than what the large wind. Well, it's the same as what the large wind turbines do during a storm.
So what's that like per coal or something? Or
Uh, no, when this is on, it's generating up to 20 kilowatts. So
but on with coal in it?
with coal in it, yeah.
Okay.
I don't. I mean, you'd have to look at the Wikipedia for actual amount, like how much power one coal will give you. Or we can have a quick look now. Actually, let's do a test.
Do you want this on heavy cable, don't you?
Yeah. So if I put a battery, I'm just gonna spawn one in, and let's get that made. Get some heavy cable. Let's see how much power a single piece of coal will get us. I'm not going to cover the battery because that's in the next room. We're not going to worry about it.
But how do you know?
So if you look at your network analyzer.
Well, at the battery?
Mm-hmm.
It's not saying no. It's never turned on.
Okay, we might have to. Let's just put a cable on the output, so you'll be able to read off that cable. So I'm going to just get a single piece of coal. Let's split that into one. Let's see how much power that generates. That coal can go outside because I'm a little bug.
200 kilowatts for one coal.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's quite a lot of power.
Why ain't I got any?
Oh no, sorry, no. That's not 200. It hasn't got 200 kilowatts. It's got
Offers potential 200 kilowatt.
potential 200 kilowatt on 3.4 megawatt.
Where are you reading that?
It's on the. It says station battery on 3.4 megawatt.
Oh, mine don't.
Oh, did it not?
Mine just says on unpowered.
So I think 3.4 megawatt is how much. So the way a battery works, and we're going to cover this later, but basically a battery will request and provide as much power as possible. There's no limit. So it's possible that a battery can blow a heavy cable because in a split second it could request a full charge.
So by that you mean if you've got three machines plugged into a battery, all three machines can pull
Whatever they want.
and request power. But
Yeah.
obviously it might be too much for the cable that you run in between it.
Yeah. So this battery might go. You might have a small base, and it might go. Oh, I need to provide 1 kilowatt of power. I'll provide 1 kilowatt of power. It might be you got a massive base, and it's like, oh, this base needs 200 kilowatt of power. Fine, I'll provide 200 kilowatt of power. There's no limit. The battery will provide what's required. But then obviously that's where you blow cables. So I think the 3.4 is how much power it will provide. But it has 200 kilowatts stored.
So that one coal has given you 200 kilowatts power.
200 kilowatts of power, yeah. And what we'll do is we'll test it. Let me put another coal in. And what we'll probably see is that 3.4 won't change. So if I just get a single coal, chuck it in.
So that's like 200,000 watts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot.
It is.
So why haven't I got any power ever?
Because you're obviously using it. So there you go, look. So now we've got 400 kilowatts of power, but we're still on 3.2 megawatts.
I can't see the 3.2.
I'm guessing that's because you're screwing on your resolution. But yeah, that's basically what those figures mean.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the generator. So that's definitely an early game thing, and it can be late game because you'll find if you do deep drills, water production, whatever, you will have an excess of coal or charcoal. If you've got that, you might as well have it as a backup for power. And then almost last but not least is the gas fuel generator. So this is more of your late game power production. I'm just going to wait for her to write her notes.
How do you know that's what I'm doing?
Because you're just staring at your tablet, and I've moved. I'm not there anymore.
Right. So what was the next one, sorry?
So the last one is kind of like a late game power production. It's the gas fuel generator. So the way this works is on the back of it, you've got an input, and that will take in a fuel mix. So that could either be your
we've used one of these, haven't we? We're using these on Mimas, aren't we?
We've tried, but they don't quite work on. We've got to build a box, but it basically takes in fuel, Then it outputs just like an exhaust. It's just whatever's left over after it's done the combustion out of the other port. On the front, you've got a data and a power connection. The power connection on this is an output, not an input. This will not use power, it will only generate it. You have a pressure gauge on the front, which will tell you the temperature of it currently and how much pressure is in there. And basically all you do is you put the fuel in, you turn it on, and that will generate power using the fuel. Now, the problem with this is it's very delicate and it has to be in like a perfect atmosphere. So if you look at the generator, the tooltip will tell you it requires an atmosphere of 20 kPa, and that's at least 20 kPa. And it needs to be between 278 Kelvin to 328 Kelvin, which in our terms is 0 to 50 degrees Celsius. Now, there is not a planet in the game in which this will just work at full efficiency. You can... Those figures that you're seeing in the tooltip are for it to work well. It will not work on Europa. It's too cold. It's got to be obviously between 0 and 50, and we're currently at negative 149.
Can't you make an atmosphere that will work in?
Yes. So whenever you're doing whenever you're using this gas fuel generator, you will put it into an enclosed box or room or whatever, and you will carefully monitor and manipulate its atmosphere to make sure it stays cold. So if you're using this, you need to have some cooling, because this generator will generate heat. But if it gets above 50 degrees, it won't work well or at all. So you need to keep it cool and keep the pressure at a decent pressure. Because what'll happen is when this is on, it'll heat up its surroundings, and as a result, the pressure will increase. So you need to deal with the pressure and the heat.
We might have to do cooling at some point.
We'll go through some basic cooling with you. Yeah, we can do that. But yeah, this generator I would say is more mid to end game. I wouldn't rush to get in this unless you really have to.
Seems like a bit of a pain in the arse.
It is a pain in the arse, but once it's up and running, it's a decent amount of power. I don't actually know.
How much does it give you?
Well, that's what I'm just about to look at, because I don't actually know how much this generates. It doesn't tell you in the Stationpedia, so again, I would check the Wikipedia. All the information for it will be on there. But yeah, don't worry about this in the early game. You're not at this level yet. You're still kind of doing the basics, aren't you? But once you're comfortable, we'll have a look at this for you and see if we can get something set up, basically.
So when you say fuel...
Just a fuel mix. So you would mix your 2 part volatile to 1 part oxygen, or if you're using nitrous oxide, you will use 1 part nitrous oxide to 1 part volatile.
What was the first one, Sarah? 2 parts?
2 part volatile, 1 part oxygen. It doesn't have to be a perfect fuel mix. You just got to have something in there that will combust. And that's what we refer to as fuel. If you combust something and it creates heat, that is fuel. So if you want,
and that's what we did before when we had the 2 ice crushers, wasn't it?
Yes, we did it on Mars.
Volatile in one and oxide in the other.
Yeah, and we know it was a good fuel mix because it blew up the base.
You blew up the base.
But yeah, if you wanted to, you could in theory go 1 part volatile, 1 part oxygen, and that will still work as a fuel, but you will be oxygen rich, so it won't burn for as long or as hot. But yeah, we'll move on to this at some point, and we'll kind of have a play with it for you.
Yeah.
The last one here, I'm only mentioning it because it's an option. It's not really something you'd ever really go and use. It's basically a version of the gas fuel generator, in which it will use fuel to produce power, but you can't automate this because it requires you to manually put the canister in and to refill the canister when it runs empty.
This is the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, so I think we started...
These are the ones we're using.
Yeah, so we've connected these. So what you can do is you have the generator, and then you just need to create a power connector. And what you can do is you can pick the generator up using the handle on the front, and then if you just get your wrench, you can just lock it down. So now you can connect cable to that power connection at the front, and you can generate power to your base. It also has a battery slot, so you can put a battery in there and charge your battery if you want to. But like I said, these can't be automated. You have to manually refill the canisters, so they're an early game at best. If you need power in a pinch, use one of these. The gauge on the
Does
front.
it have to be fuel again?
Yes, it needs to
Bit
be
of canister of.
it needs to be a fuel mix. Yeah. The better the fuel mix, the more power, the longer it'll last. But realistically, you wouldn't use this long term.
Because I'm like doing Mars, it's not really something I'm going to need, is it?
You're not going to need this on Mars. To be honest, you're not going to need the gas fuel generator on Mars either. I mean, it's a nice place to test it and figure out how it works, but you don't need it to survive.
We're using it on Mimas, aren't we?
We haven't got it set up yet, but we will
No,
be
we've got
using
these
it on
ones.
Mimas. We've got those ones currently, yes. But eventually, we will move over to the gas fuel generator because we don't have great power production on there.
Okay.
But yeah, so that is basically covering power transfer and then power generation. Have you got any questions or any more questions so far?
I don't think so. Yes, I do, yeah.
Okay.
What the question I asked you before and you said you show me at the end.
Well, we're not at the end yet.
Oh.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
not yet. Right, come out here. I want to show you something.
You set all this up nicely, but where have you gone? Oh.
I'm over here. So, come on the roof. Now, there's something I want to mention, and I can't figure out how it's let me do it. So
I thought these shouldn't be on normal cable.
well, this is something that I'm going to show you. This is what I'm about
Okay.
to... So, the first thing I want to point out is that these
Loud, aren't
turbines... They are loud. These turbines are positioned right next to each other. Technically, you shouldn't be able to do this. Because over here, because they're collision box, this is what the game will normally let you do over here. Where you place one, you have to put a gap between them.
And that's where you said you could put one of the little ones in middle.
Yeah. The thing is, I can't figure out why the game has let me do this. Like, I've tried putting frames in all different places. It's just let me do this, and that shouldn't be the case. Over here, it's let me do it as well, but not over here. So I don't know. So for anyone watching, don't be surprised if the game will not let you do what I've done here, because this isn't normal behavior. It should not allow me to do this. But yeah, that's the first thing. So
Yeah, I can't put this down anywhere.
yeah, no, because they need to have at least a 1 block space around them. So what I want to show you is about potential and actual. So if you look at the cable down here.
Where have I just put that?
Put what?
Oh, did I not put that down then?
Yeah, you put it there on top of the IC tutorial place.
Oh, it's not built there, so.
So what I want to show you is we currently have 19 turbines here. Yeah. If you look at the cable, we have the potential of over 5 kilowatts. It's currently at 6.4 and dropping. There are times when this hits 10 kilowatts. But we're not using a heavy cable, we're using a normal cable. And what I'm showing you here is that the potential is not actually what's being transferred. The actual is what is traveling through the cable. That's how I understand it. My potential on this cable could be 100 kilowatts. But the cable is only going to blow if you need to use more than 5. That's the difference between potential and actual. Actual is what is transferring to your devices. Potential is what you could request from the network. So you can see at the moment required is 0. That's because there's no devices on this network turned on. Down here I have a LED. Oh no, I don't. I have a diode slide. If I turn this on, and now you look at the power network, you can see that we're currently using 25 watts. The actual is what we're actually using. The devices on the network require 25. We've only got a single device, and it's just working. Now, these turbines, again, will generate over 5 kilowatts at times. But this cable will not blow because we are not requesting, well, we're not using 5 kilowatts. So what I'm trying,
So is all this cable connected to each other?
hmm
So both sides you look at will always be the same number.
yeah, both sides. It's all one network. They're connected via this cable in the middle here. So it's all one network. But all I'm trying to show you here is that you could set up a huge power grid. But if you haven't got the material for the heavy cable, you don't have to worry about it as long as you're not going to request more than 5 kilowatt. It isn't going to blow. The
But if
cable,
all of these were connected to a battery,
then it would probably blow because
it'd blow because the battery's just gonna
the battery will
take it.
request whatever it can. Currently, the battery will request 5.16 kilowatts, and
So
that will blow the cable.
what would you have to have all these connected to for it not to blow?
Well, this is a stupid setup. You'd never do this.
You could.
Um, but yeah, all I'm doing is this is just a extreme example showing you the difference between potential and actual. Potential is
So potential is how much you could
you
provide you with.
what you could
But
pull from the network, and actual is what
actual
you
is
are
what's being
pulling.
used or requested.
And it's only the actual that will blow the cable. So if you're ever looking at going, crap, my potential is 10 kilowatt and I've only got a standard cable, doesn't matter as long as you're not using more than 5 kilowatt.
Okay.
So hopefully that explains those two. And then the signs, I think, basically just explain that. Yeah, basically the potential shows the amount of power being generated. The actual is the amount of power you're using. But yeah, that was just,
Unless you're attached to a battery, because that will request just 5 points
you
on it.
connect to anything, so it could be a battery or it could be a million devices. If you start,
Yeah.
if your actual goes above the limit of the cable will blow.
So what if you had okay.
You good?
So no, I was just thinking, so say you had this, I don't think you'd ever do this, but say you had this set up but you didn't have a battery, it just went straight to your uh stuff.
Yeah,
But then you put like a transformer saying only pull off 5.
we're gonna cover transformers in a second.
So would that work with us?
Yes, in
Okay.
theory. Basically, if you were to limit the amount of power being taken from this to below the limit of the cable won't blow.
Yeah, I get it.
Obviously, we're wasting it because our potential at the moment is 7 kilowatt. If we only ever pull 5, we're wasting power, effectively. We're just not using it. And when we could be storing it or using it on other devices.
So if you have bear with me. If you have uh my math isn't good.
If you have a sentence,
So if you had one upright the one upright thingy and it's will give you 10,000 watts.
mm-hmm,
It'll give you up to say you had something ridiculous like 20 upright fingers
yep,
going into a battery.
mm-hmm,
If what your upright thing is basically anything you've got on a cable,
yep,
if it's producing day to day more than the 5 point something that the battery pulls,
mm-hmm.
you need more than one battery. Is it being wasted or not because it's
So
stored?
if you put more than one battery on the cable, all those batteries are going to be requesting as much as they need. So it doesn't matter if you've got one battery or 100 batteries, they're going to request what they need. If that need is more than the cable can limit, it'll blow. Now, I think if you had a battery that was fully charged, it will only ever request what it needs.
To be full.
Yeah. So if it's almost full, and to get full it needs less than 5 kilowatts, then that shouldn't blow your cable. I don't think. So I think technically what you could do is you could just keep, as long as that battery is always almost fully charged, you could keep chucking turbines and solar panels and whatever you want on that cable, and it will keep that battery topped up at all times. As long as that battery never drops to a point where it's going to request 5 kilowatts, if technically I think it's not a great setup. It's a bit finicky, but it should not blow and it should keep that battery fully charged at all times.
How do you know you're ready for a second battery?
So for example, if I've got a single battery and I've just had a storm, and my battery's full and the storm's still going, I know that okay, if I would have had a second battery, I could have also stored some more storm power.
Okay.
If my battery is always full, I know that there is probably potential there to store more.
But if it's full day to day, you've fucked it when there's a storm, really, because you're not storing anything else, are you?
Exactly, you're wasting that storm. So at that point, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to put some more batteries. And you could just continue thinking like that and just keep putting more and more batteries onto the network. But there'll come a time when you think, I don't need any more batteries because all I'm doing is storing power and not using it. So it just depends on the requirement of your base, really. But in the early game, I mean, I would aim for long term, probably four to six of the large station batteries. If you've got them, you're probably going to be absolutely fine for power. But if you get to a point where, oh crap, I've only got like 40% of my power, maybe you need to be storing more from the storms.
Okay.
It might be that you get to a point where you've got so many batteries, but a storm isn't filling them. At that point, you go, okay, I don't need more batteries, I need more power generation. So it's just to and fro, and you basically are just going to continue building it until your base needs are met.
Okay.
That's it. Okay, if you
And we
want,
can do that thing before, can't we, where we gave us a percent, we had a screen up that gave us a percentage of how much battery is left.
yes, you can
But
set
if you've
up.
got
I
more than
see.
one,
Yeah, give you an
it's like an
average
average.
ratio. Yeah, it gives you a total charge that you've got in your batteries. So yeah, there's all sorts of systems you can build and create that are gonna allow you to monitor your power usage, and you just act accordingly. Okay, if you want to take a hop down here with me,
Where'd you go?
over
Oh,
here, and we will go into the next room. So we've covered power transfer, power generation, and kind of, well, that's it really, generation and transfer. But the problem stems that you get a lot of questions about, well, what happens if there's too much power? What happens if not? So we're going to go through storage options, and then we're going to go through like manipulating the lines. So these three devices over here, ignore them. All these are doing is these are a creative mode tool only, and they're just producing power for the base currently. So that's how our lights are working. These are just providing an unlimited amount of power. But that's
okay.
creative mode only. You're not going to use them in the normal game. When it comes to power storage, you've kind of got two options for your base. You've got the small station batteries, and you've got the large station batteries. The large station batteries have the input on the back, and they have the output on the front, and they also have a data connection on the front. So obviously you can read from the battery, you can tell it to turn on or off, whatever you want to do.
Why would you turn your battery off?
Um, so if it's full and you want to keep it as a backup, you can turn the battery off, and it won't provide power. It will just keep that power. The on and off switch is on the side. So if I turn this on, you'll see that this one is red because it's got a little bit of power in. The one up here, you'll see it's flashing red because it's almost empty. These batteries, you can place them right next to each other, but you've got to be very careful because obviously the on-off switch is next to the battery. So just bear that in mind that I can't turn this battery on because I've placed it next to this one.
Unless you put it down first and it's already on.
Unless you put it down, turn it on, then put the battery next to it. Yeah, you can do that if you want to. The other option is you just write some logic to turn it on. But just bear in mind that the switch is on the side. If you want to, you can also place batteries on top of each other like this. The way to do this is by placing a frame, put the battery inside the frame, then remove the frame. So if you're short on space, that's another way you can stack them.
So what are these called? Just station battery?
These are just
The
station
small
batteries,
ones.
yeah. These batteries can store 3,600 kilowatts of power, which is quite a lot, but your base will use you're always kind of building on your power. It's a lot, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to last a long time. And I've just put a sign there going that there's no limit on throughput. So as we've already discussed, they will if it's not fully charged, it will request as much power as possible to fully charge itself. So there's the risk of blowing the cable on the input, and again, it will push out as much power as is being required by your base. So it's possible you'll blow the cable on this side. I would always use heavy cables with batteries. You don't have to, but if you don't, you're probably going to blow it. In the late game, mid to late game, you've got the large station batteries. So these are quite a lot more expensive to make, but they can store up to 9,000 kilowatts, which is a lot. Same kind of thing. They have a power input on the back. They have the power output on the front with a data connection. Their on and off switch is on the front. So you could put these in parallel next to each other and still access the power button. The charge on a battery can be where you can tell by the lights on the front. So if it's flashing red, it means it's almost empty. If it's still red, it means it's obviously not more than empty, but it's pretty low. And then you'll get like different colors, different rates. So this one is about half full. If it's blue and full, it means it's completely fully charged and you're not going to gain any more power from it. So just look at that. Look at those lights if you're ever unsure about how much power you've got. And yeah, that's basically that really. When it comes to any kind of battery, whether it's a station battery or a battery in your suit, temperature is a factor. And we've got a storm. Fantabby-doozy. Actually, let's go back for a second.
Is there no limit on throughput on this one as well?
No limit on throughput on these batteries now. Come with me a second.
Wait, I'm writing my notes.
No, come with.
Wait.
Come with. Got a lovely storm. I just want to also point something out.
Where are you?
I've just gone back to the wind turbines. I don't know if we'll be able to get on the roof actually.
I can barely move.
Yeah, try and get on the roof. Just don't fly over it.
Ah, I can't.
Where have you gone?
I can't get up.
So you can use your jetpack and you kind of like glide up the wall.
Ah, fucked it. I'm off.
Oh, so we'll see Sophie later. But basically what I want to show you here is that you can see we've got potential of 300 kilowatts, which is tons of power, but we're still not blowing this cable. So this just proves the fact that I said that your potential is not what you're using. This cable is perfectly safe until we use more than the 5 kilowatts. But there we go, at its peak, we're getting 380 kilowatts from these turbines. Now, we've lost Sophie to the storm.
I'm back inside.
Oh, okay, I'll come now.
No, I'm miles away.
I'm coming back inside with you. 1 moment.
Could you give me a demonstration of stacking these batteries on top of each other, please?
Of course I can. Let me close this door. Okay, so if I get a steel frame. Are you over here,
Does it have to be steel?
No, it can be iron as well. We'll come over here.
Oh, come here, wait. Oh, yeah. Yep.
So if I stick the frame there,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I get the battery, I can place the battery at multiple points in this frame. I could put one there. I could put one there. I could put one there.
So would this... But wait, do it where you've got one on the bottom already.
What do you mean?
So
What?
like...
Place a battery and then place the frame.
Like literally say you've done it like you have there. You've got your battery at the bottom.
Okay, so I've got my battery at the bottom, which I'm going to get welded up.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a frame over the battery. And then I'm going to get another battery. And I'm going to just place it, and then it'll let me place it there.
Ah, okay.
And then I can just remove the frame and the battery will stay put. And that's how you stack your batteries on top of each other if you lack of space.
Thank you. Whee. Does that work for anything else?
Everything. Anything that requires frame, so you can do it with the printers. So we'll put the printers on top of each other. I think we've done that before on Mars. In the first base. But yeah, anything that requires frame for support, you could just put a frame and it should let you put it in the middle of it somewhere.
Oh. Okay.
So yeah, going back to the battery, so temperature is a factor. So if a battery is cold, it will lose power.
How if it's cold?
Huh?
What are those symbols there?
That's showing you that's the output.
Oh. How do you know if it's cold?
Well, it's currently negative 173. It's cold.
Oh, so the room.
Yeah, so if the atmosphere around a battery is cold, And it works the same on all your tools as well. On your roper, a problem you have with power is that all your batteries are draining quickly. Which is why we were struggling for power so much on that live stream. Because everything was draining a lot quicker, and there's two of us as well, which made it even more difficult.
Well, I thought we were struggling for air. I didn't realise we were struggling for power.
Yeah, we were juggling the batteries left, right, and centre, weren't we? That's why I had to go out looking for coal. But yeah, cold is a factor. So if you're playing on Europa specifically, just bear in mind that your batteries will lose some power. So getting a good power network up should be a priority in the early game. Now, obviously, we've spoken about the base power batteries, but you've also got your suit batteries as well, or your suit and tool batteries. So
Oh yeah.
the two on the left, they're the wireless batteries. So if you grab that red battery out of that charger and just hold it in your hand, you should see
Oh, it's going up.
it's charging because we've got one of these here. And that's how they work. It has to be either on your person or in a tool for it to charge. If you chuck it on the floor, it won't charge. It has
Right,
to
hold
be
on.
in something, either your character or in a tool. That's how the game loads it.
Does it not charge in that
It do,
charger then?
it doesn't charge in there unless if I turn it on, it'll charge.
But it'll take it through the wire, not
Yeah,
wireless
it
then.
won't charge wirelessly into that charger. I don't know why you'd think just placing the battery on the floor would charge it, because it's technically still within range. But no, it has to be either in your hand, in your bag, in a tool, or in a charger turned on for it to charge. That's something that I only learned when I was building this. So they're the wireless ones, and then obviously you've got the small, the
So you
large.
can't just have it like in a locker.
Let's try it. Let's try it. I don't know. So if we put is that battery fully charged now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's that one? That one's on 80. So that battery there is at 84%. If I put it in a locker, it's currently still at 84%. Yeah, yours is at 100. If I hold it, the problem with this, oh yeah, so it's charged at 85. How quick does it go to
Okay.
86? Oh yeah, it's pretty quick. So in a locker, they don't charge. So it has to be on your character, or in a tool, or in a charging station. It's not going to just charge inside a locker. I don't know why that is. It's just obviously how they've made the game. No idea why. But yeah, you've got the small, large, and nuclear batteries as well. The large,
Are the wireless ones expensive? Like more expensive than normal ones?
have a look. So you
Why have
stick.
we never used these?
We've just not got to it yet on our saves because you keep blowing things up.
Bullshit.
Um, they are not expensive. So the small wireless charger battery just uses copper, gold, and iron. The actual transmitter for it is gold, copper, and steel. So they're not expensive in the slightest. Just bear in mind that obviously there is a power usage. The transmitter itself, I don't think it'll tell me what it uses power. It doesn't. But I'm guessing because it's a battery, the battery will request however much it can.
Do they hold the same as the normal batteries?
No. Now I don't know how much the wireless batteries hold because I couldn't find any information on them. But the small normal battery holds 36 kilowatts. The large battery holds 288 kilowatts. The nuclear battery holds 2.3 megawatts, which is equivalent to 2,300 kilowatts.
Say that again.
So the small battery holds 36 kilowatts.
Yep.
The large battery holds 288 kilowatts.
Yep.
The nuclear battery holds 2.3 megawatts, which is 2,300 kilowatts. So whenever you start in a new world, depending on the world, depending on the difficulty, you'll always have small batteries in your tools. Your suit will probably have a large battery. What you really want to be working towards is getting large batteries throughout. You don't want to use the small batteries. They don't last very long at all.
Both chargers use power to function even when not charging.
Yes, so if I turn off the charger,
Fuck's sake.
And if I turn yeah, so if I turn off the charger, get your tablet and look at your cable. So at the moment, obviously, the battery charger the battery cell charger is off and unpowered. It's not using any battery. If I turn it on and then get my tablet back out, I can see that it's using 10 watts. If I take the batteries out and then you look at the cable, it's still using 10 watts.
So if you're early days, turn them off.
So yeah, early days, you've got no power, especially on Europa. Turn off the charger if you're not using it. Now, the problem on Europa is if you don't have it turned on, your batteries will discharge by themselves. So, because it's cold, if I turn off the charger, those batteries will probably go green because they'll slowly discharge. There you go. You see the small one?
Oh, yeah, because they lose power because it's cold.
Because it's cold. Now, obviously, I don't know why the nuclear battery lost more power than the blue one, but whatever. Just bear that in mind on Europa. Like on a normal planet, on like the moon or Mars, that's not going to happen because it's not that cold. Maybe on the moon you will because it's vacuum. But just bear in mind that obviously the charger will always use power, even if it's not working. It's just something to bear in mind on your networks. It's a small, insignificant amount, but it's just something.
Oh, that's up.
Yes, it does. Normally you start with the orange charger by default on a save. If you can, make the grey one because it charges quicker. I think it's almost twice as quick it charges, and it can hold more batteries. So try and get to that if you can do.
I didn't know that.
The grey battery charger has a data connection, so you can read from it. So you can read like what charge your batteries are if you wanted that information. You can also write to it and tell it to turn itself off if needed. What I would say though is because you do that if you want to save the 10 watts, but the code you're writing, if you're doing that on a chip, chances are you're using more than 10 watts to run that code anyway. So it's probably not worth coding this to turn on or off. I would use the data port solely just to get stats from it. Don't worry about programming it to turn off if there's no batteries in there, for example. Because it's probably not worth it. Just turn it off yourself. And you'll be good. That's pretty much it on the battery.
Right, is the grey one, because it's bigger, is that still 10 watts? Is the orange one less watts than the grey one?
The orange one is always using 5 watts. So, obviously, the orange one's got 2 battery slots using 5 watts. The grey one's got 5 using 10. So, technically, you're better using the big one because you've got a free slot, which isn't using any additional power. The grey one is basically 2.5 of the orange ones on slots, but only double the power.
So just going back to when you said that it uses more power to turn it off.
So if you're, so say you've got some code on your IC in which you want to code this to turn off when it's got no batteries in there or it's not charging, your IC, if it's doing other things, could be using more than 10 watts of power.
So if you're looking at that, is it, where do you look to see how much that, how much power that AC is using?
AC?
IC.
Oh, so if you had an IC connected to the network, you could just point at the cable with your network analyzer and your IC will show on there.
But that's not telling you how much each piece is using, is it?
It is.
As a whole.
Well, for me, it is because obviously, as I scroll down, I can see that all of the lights in here are using 50 watts. I can see that my battery cell charger is using 0. My power transmitter is using about.
Yeah, but that's not telling you what each thing on an IC chip will use, is it?
What do you mean? What each thing?
So say you've got like a chip that's running some code that's doing the lights plus something else plus turning the charger off.
Yeah, sorry. So each
is
device.
Is it using any more power?
You'd have to check
turn the charger off if it's already.
So you'd have to check it. If you write a code on your IC, and then you put the IC circuit onto the network, that IC circuit will use some power itself. What I'm saying is I don't know if the IC circuit will use more power depending on what it's trying to do. If it's trying to process things, I don't know if it'll use more power.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd have to test it, put your IC on it, and just see how much power it's using. Automate the battery charge to turn off and just see if the IC is using any more power. If it is, and it's more than 10 watts, it's not worth automating this.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we've just got one other thing to go through now, really. But we're going to cover a few devices. And it's going to be about power throughput. And she's turning a page, ready for some more notes.
Can you hear that?
Uh-huh.
My apologies.
So, obviously, we've discussed that a battery will request and provide as much power as what is needed.
Could you just explain to me what power throughput actually means? For
Okay,
those
so
basic.
power throughput. So the battery has an input and an output. The throughput is the journey that power makes to get from the input to the output. How much power is going to go through this battery? That's the throughput. Now,
That's pretty obvious.
there's no limit. So
So is that two different requests technically? So you got the battery requesting from
the battery requests
the
power from the
solar.
generation.
Mm-hmm.
It provides power through its output to the base or to whatever's on the other side.
So it's like two different requests, isn't it? It's the battery requesting
It's
power from the generation
it's
and the
not yes, the battery is requesting power from the generation and it's providing power to the base. The
same
requesting
difference.
would have what?
Same difference.
Well, what do you mean the same
Because
difference?
technically, the machine that's plugged into the battery is the one requesting the power. So it's
Yeah.
two requests.
Yeah, it's not the the battery isn't requesting power from the device it's providing power to.
No, I didn't say that. The battery is requesting power from the generation. Then whatever's plugged into the battery is requesting power from the battery. So it's two
Yes,
requests.
correct.
I know.
Um so we know there's no limit, so how do we handle that basically? Because the problem is we've got two types of cable, one that can handle 5 kilowatt and the heavy that can handle 100. Obviously with an unlimited throughput we could blow heavy cable. So we've got a few different
Yes.
options. So I just want to show you something that I've got set up. So if you come around here,
Where's he?
over here.
It's a good job the storm's finished because I won't got up here.
So we currently have 17 beacons up here.
Why would you ever need 17 beacons?
You wouldn't, but it's just to prove something. So each beacon working at its working uses 300 watts. Okay.
Let me just check that.
So what you'll see is because they're all powered off at the moment, but you'll see like a required number.
4.8 kilowatts.
Yeah, so what I've done is this beacon nearest to you is isolated. It's on its own separate network. So that uses 300 watts. So that shows you that a single beacon requires 300 watts.
But is that not the beacon and the APC, technically?
The APC doesn't require power on this side because this is the output of the APC.
Oh, okay. Did you not need... Oh, so it'd be the other side.
Yeah, if the APC... So if we have a look at power controller... no, is it... Yeah, controller. It doesn't say it has a base power usage, so the APC might not have that kind of... it might not have base power it needs to use, but we'll check in a second. But yeah, so over here I've got 16 beacons, each wanting 300 watts. So that's pulling me to 4.8 kilowatts, which is what this cable can handle. And then we've got that additional one there, 300. So obviously, as it currently stands, that's fine. But if we had all 17 of those beacons on a single network, if they were turned on, it would blow the cable. Yeah?
Yeah.
So follow me back into the room. So I'm just going to show you what was around here because we were about to use them.
Why did you drag me out here?
Because I'm just going to show you what we've done. So then you don't ask questions like, oh, well, how's that happening? So the top APC is connected to the 16. The bottom one is connected to the 1. So if I turn the top APC on, that's now providing power to the beacons. And if you point your tablet at the cable coming out of the APC, you'll see that we've got an actual of 4.8, required 4.8, and a potential of 9 megawatts. So the actual and the required are the same because that's just the beacons, and we've got that amount of power coming from the battery. The potential is the power that the battery can provide. Okay, the APC has a throughput kind of the same as the battery. It's unlimited. So if we wanted to, we could provide more power through that cable than just the 5 kilowatt.
Does that go up if you put a small battery into there?
So if I put a small battery into there, the APC will charge the battery at 1,000 watts. So that would throw it. So for example, I've got a dead battery over here, a small one with only 12% power. If I put this into the APC, it blew the cable over there near the battery. So over here, we can see that the cable is just shorted.
Why? Explain.
So we've currently, if you point your tablet at the output of that APC, you can see that those beacons want 4.8 kilowatts.
Mm-hmm.
By me putting that battery in, the APC is requesting a kilowatt to charge the battery, which puts it at 5.8, which is more than this cable can handle.
Ah, but that wouldn't have happened if you'd used heavy cable.
Now, now that only happens if I put the battery in. So if I go and repair this cable,
So you'd only have needed heavy cable on the left-hand side of the APC.
correct?
Ah, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
So you can see that the output cable didn't blow because
Mm-hmm.
the output cable doesn't care about the charge of that battery. It was the input cable that took the strain. So now I've plugged it all back in. You should see that we're providing power to those beacons again, which we are. We've got actual 4.8, required 4.8, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to turn the bottom APC on. We blew the cable again over here on the input. Because again, the output of that APC is a separate network. The output is not above the 5 kilowatt, so that cable doesn't blow. The strain was felt by this cable, and so it blew.
Because if you look at the one on the left-hand side, it's requesting 5.1 kilowatts, but it can only handle 5,000.
Exactly.
5 kilowatts.
Yeah. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going
That
to put
makes
that
sense.
cable back in. So that's that. Now, there's a weird bug, or I don't know if it's a bug, but it was just something that I spotted. If I let this cable blow, I'm trying to see if this is going to do it. 300 watt. No. Oh, how did I replicate it? I can't bloody remember. Don't worry about it. I came across a really random issue that I can't remember how I got. Basically, what I encountered was... Oh, yes, I know how to get it, and we'll go through that in a second. So, obviously, we have a situation here in which if I want all those beacons on, I'm going to keep blowing my cable. Doesn't matter how many times I turn it on or off, how many times I replace the cable, it's going to keep blowing.
So just change it for heather.
So, yeah, we're going to go through the options you've got to stop this issue. Okay? So I'll turn that off because I forgot. And replace this cable. So, the easiest way of avoiding this issue, well, to a point, is by using fuses. It doesn't really avoid the issue, I've just used my words wrong. What this will do is this will make the cable blow at a set point. So, for example, you might have a base in which your cable is running through frames. You can't see the cable.
Mm-hmm.
If the cable blows there, you're never going to find it. You'd
Mm-hmm.
have to rip your base apart or get those lenses where you can see the cable. By using the fuse, we can set it to a certain wattage. So if I go to place the fuse, I can scroll. So I can pick between 1 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt, or 100. I'm going to set it to 5 kilowatt because that's what this cable can
Using the
handle.
cable. Yeah.
If I turn this APC on, it will blow on that fuse. If I
So you're not preventing anything. You're just making it easier to
you're making it easier
identify.
to locate the issue, yeah. If I turn the power for a second, and if I decide to put the fuse... Where are my fuses? I thought I had more. That's fine. Let's get some more fuses spawned in. If I put the fuse over here and turn it on, same thing. It'll blow over the fuses without fail. So that's one way to kind of help you triage where your network is struggling. But it doesn't really solve the issue. You're still going to have blows.
Is that why you have fuses in your plugs then?
If you get a power surge,
Didn't know
that's
that.
going to blow the fuse in your plug. It didn't damage the cable. So basically the fuse is slightly weaker than the cable. That's where it will always short out first. And that's why they were made. So that the wiring in your house doesn't have the issue, the actual wire to the device doesn't have the issue, it's the fuse that will go.
So that's why you have a fuse box in it. I didn't,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Never
so
thought that.
I never really thought about it until this game anyway. So there you go. Now, the second thing you can do is, like you've said, you could replace all this cable with heavy cable, which is absolutely fine, but that cable is still susceptible to having the issue as well, because in theory, you could have a base that requests more power than what the heavy cable can handle. Unlikely in the early game, but possible. So this is where transformers come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a piece of this cable, and I'm going to replace that with a transformer.
I have used a transformer, but I don't really know what it's doing.
Well, we're going to show you. So I'm going to place the transformer here. When you're placing it, you have an input and an output arrow. So obviously I want the input to come from the battery. The output goes to my base. So the transformer is taking power in on the left, out on the right, or if you orient it the other way, or the other way. The dial on the front determines how much power you're going to allow to pass through this cable. What we're effectively doing is we're telling this transformer, I don't care what's getting requested, it must not exceed this number.
So I set mine to like 4,900.
Yes, which means that at any one time, your base cannot request more than 4,900 watts of power. The battery has the potential to provide more, but the transformer is only going to request 4,900 from the battery and provide it to your base. You're limiting the amount that's allowed to pass through. You're setting a rule. So you can change the value on this dial by just clicking on the dial, or you can use a labeler and you can put a number in. The transformer itself uses power. It uses 10 watts of power. So on a light cable, I've been setting it to 4950, and it's just giving me that leeway of 40 watts. So I should never go over even for a split second.
So I went a bit low. I could have gone like 950.
Go 4950. You could probably go 4990 if you really want to, but that gives you literally
that's quite close, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no wiggle room there. So if I turn this on, we can see that the green lights come on, and that is because this APC is turned on. So if I turn the APC off, you'll see that the green light is no longer lit. It means nothing is going through, but the transformer is still using the 10 watts of power.
So if this was connected to all your machines, none of the machines were making anything, it wouldn't be on.
If all your machines were turned off, this wouldn't be on. But anything that's using base power is still using power. Now, the actual transformer isn't saying it's using any power, so I might be wrong. I thought they used 10 watts, but I might be mistaken. So we're going to set this to... we'll set it to the full 5. So no more than what that cable can hold should be going through. So if you get your tablet and have a look at the output of the transformer, you'll see that we're not actually... There's no actual and there's no required.
No, because I've turned it off.
If I turn the bottom APC on, you'll see now we've got an actual and a required of 300. So we're providing power to that APC and to the beacon. And we've got potential for 5 kilowatt. The potential on this side is 9 megawatts. Now, don't forget, the potential doesn't blow the cable, which is why this cable over here is absolutely fine. It shows.
So it doesn't matter what the potential is; it's what you're using.
Correct. And on this transformer, we are never going to use more than 5 kilowatts. And that's what the transformer does. It doesn't step down the power. It just limits the amount that can be requested at any one time.
So what happens now if you turn the other one on? Because before it was blowing it.
This is what I wanted to show you, because this bit to me doesn't make sense. I'm going to turn on the top APC. Okay. Now, effectively, what we're doing here is we are using more power than that cable can handle.
Because it says required is like 7.
Yeah, the required going up. But that doesn't make sense, because the required is always the same. So we've got 17 beacons up there, which want a total of 5.1 kilowatts.
Where's it getting 10 from?
Well, this is what doesn't make sense. From my testing, my best guess is that that beacon, if we go and have a look at it, the beacon. What?
No, go on.
The beacon is on.
All of them.
They're all on. They're all glowing. Look, if I turn it
Yeah, but
off,
that
it
one
goes off. Yeah, but that's because I've just done it. It's on. This beacon shouldn't be working because it requires 300 watts, but we're only providing it with 200 because we're over by 100 watts. So my best guess at what's happening here is that the game is calculating it and it's putting us into a power debt.
Why is that flashing?
It's flashing because we're not providing enough power. The APC wants 300 on the output, but it's only receiving 200. You can't see the receiving, but that's just masked by taking the top amount from the total that we need, which is 5,100. So the APC is struggling to provide power, but the beacon is on. The beacon is working.
Why is the bottom one struggling? Why won't the top one be the one that's struggling? That gets all the power.
The game's just decided that the top APC needs more power, so that's getting priority. That's all that's happening there. So this is what doesn't make sense. In real life, that beacon would not be on because it's not providing enough power. What the game is doing is it's powering the beacon, but it's saying, I need another 100 watts. You haven't got it. It's going into a pool. You owe me 100 watts. And that's why the required's going up. Because at
what point does it take that?
Well, until
require it.
we provide it enough power. So if I turn off the bottom APC, it's now going down. So I think at this point what's happening
then what's the negative to your required just constantly ticking up?
What, sorry?
If you left it on and the required was just constantly ticking up, what's the negative to
that? Well, I think I don't think there's a negative to this right now. But if I turn off the bottom APC, I think that deficit of power that we had, we owe the game that power. I think we're using additional power now to power what doesn't need it.
But what if you left it on constantly?
What, the bottom APC?
Mm-hmm.
Would go into more and more debt.
And then what would happen eventually?
I don't know. I guess it goes up indefinitely. So if you see here, look, on the top cable, the top APC, the actual power required is 4.8 kilowatts. And obviously we need 4.8 kilowatts. On this cable coming from the transformer to the APC, if I turn the bottom APC off, we're actually using 5 kilowatts.
Oh, even though you've turned it off?
Even though I've turned the bottom one off, we only need 4.8, but we're using 5.
So I'm guessing once the thingy required gets to 0,
it'll go down to 4.8. So this doesn't really make sense because this is not how it would happen in real life. But this is just how the game is calculating that power. If that was
a machine, would the machine be going on and off?
I would say so, yes. I think.
Is it just because it's the beacon you don't really notice?
Yeah, I think the beacon is on and working, but the game is saying, don't worry, you owe me that. I will be taking that later. Whereas the machine, it'll probably keep cutting off and going on, cutting off, going on. But there you go, look. If you look at the first cable now, it's gone down to 4.8 kilowatts. We're now using what is required.
Okay.
So yeah, just bear that in mind. If you ever see that required ticking up and there's no reason for it, chances are you're going into a power debt. And it's something that you're going to have to pay off later. But that's what the transformer does. So the transformer is limiting the amount of power that we can request. So there's no negative on the battery side and there's no negative on the output of the transformer. All we're doing is protecting the cables. It doesn't matter what we put on this side. We could put 1,000,000 beacons. We will not blow this cable on this side. It won't happen. There are other size transformers. So the transformer we've put down can only handle up to 5 kilowatts. There is the large transformer. This one is the one that you will probably use on your kind of output of your battery to your base. These ones can these ones can handle up to 50 kilowatts. So you would only ever use this with a heavy cable. There's no point in using this on a light one.
So what's that one called?
This is the transformer large. Now, technically, what you could do is we could use this on our light cable. So I could bring this round like so, and this
So
will work.
did you say the large one is always 50?
No, the large one can deal with up to 50 kilowatts. Not always
Okay.
50, up to. It has a dial on the front in which you can change
So
the
what does the little one deal up to?
maximum of 5. So you can see here, that is just working exactly the same. I've got it set to 5 kilowatts.
So you can't use the small ones on heavy cable?
You can, but it's a waste. Because your heavy cable can handle more than that transformer will allow.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see here, I've got both these APCs on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not blowing any cables because I've got that transformer set to 5 kilowatt. But you can see we're building up that debt again. Obviously because of that issue that we just discussed. But this transformer can go a lot more over 5. If I turn this up to 6, I blew cable on both sides. The input and the output both blew. And the reason for that is because both of these APCs will request as much as they need, which went over on this cable.
Mm-hmm.
Because this needed more than 5 kilowatt, the transformer then said, oh, I need more than 5 kilowatt. So the battery was like, yeah, sure, have it. But then that blew this cable as well.
But is that just because you've set the output to 6,000? If it was still at 5,000, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
If I set this to, let me replace the cables. 1 moment. So if I fix that one, turn off that APC, put that cable back. Interesting. So that blew, even though this bottom APC is off.
Why?
That's because of that debt. We still owe that top APC more power, and because this is still set to 6 kilowatt, it allowed that 6 kilowatt to travel through,
Okay.
even though this APC was off.
Because it doesn't thingy down until you get rid of the debt.
So actually now, I bet we couldn't reconnect this up without causing that problem. The transformer is off. Oh yeah,
Can't you just change the output to 5,000?
Yeah, so you look, because we're still in that debt. So yeah,
Just
yeah,
change the output.
yeah. So if you want to do that, change it to 5 kilowatt.
Why would you have it on 6,000 if you've only got 5 kilowatt?
You wouldn't. I'm just showing you.
Oh.
All I'm showing you is that you can use this transformer on light cable if you want to, but this is a lot more expensive. Whereas the small one is obviously absolutely fine for light cable, but this one can handle up to heavy cable.
So,
hang on 1 second.
Sorry.
There is a medium transformer as well, which is part of the normal the small transformer kit. You just need 2 of them. No, you don't. You need 3 of them. This one will go up to a maximum of. Doesn't know the answer, so he's just going to go 100,000. See what it sets to. 25 kilowatts. But again, you wouldn't really use this on light cable. This would be heavy cable.
What's the point?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what were you going to ask? Sorry.
So would you have a transformer? So what I'm thinking is, so say you've got like this over here.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 2 batteries pulling in from whatever power generation.
Yep.
Would you put a transformer on each battery?
So there is that. So obviously, as we figured out recently, there's a bit of an issue in Stationeers where if you run 2 transformers in parallel, feeding off the same input line, it duplicates your power.
So if you had a transformer here and then one here.
Yeah, so what I would do in this situation, let me take this transformer down. I'm just going to rip these cables up 1 second. So these batteries are obviously getting charged by however they're getting charged. Okay. Now I'm using heavy cable on the input, so I know that I can generate up to 100 kilowatts without an issue. You would need a transformer on this side, ideally, to make sure that the batteries don't request more than the cable can handle. On the output of the battery, the way I would set
Say
this
that
up.
again for the input.
So obviously the batteries can request as much power as they need. Okay, and they don't care about the cable. They will quite happily blow your cable. They're not bothered.
Okay.
So what I would do is on the input of those batteries, I would have, you want to split your networks. So you know what? Let's go outside. Let's set up an area. Let me just do this from scratch and show you really what is probably a pretty basic but efficient way of setting up a power network. Can you just weld these for me?
Oh shit, I fell.
So just get the authoring tool from the creative menu.
Authoring tool?
Yeah, just search for authoring or tool and you'll see it's like a little blue sonic screwdriver. It's actually a sonic screwdriver looking at it, to be honest.
I mean, you probably could have had this done if we're honest.
Well, what's your point? Graph. Doesn't take too long.
Oh, keep over pressing, it takes it off.
Ah, there we go. Okay, so let's go for some turbines. And we'll go for the large ones. So I'm going to place 1, 2... Oh, I need more frames. 3, 4... Right, a turbine. Okay, so... Oh my god. No, I'll just put it here, it's fine. Right, so we're going to cable these up. And
This is what's giving us our power, yeah?
Yeah, so this is going to be our power generation. Now, I've only done 4. Because these can handle up to 20 kilowatts in a storm, we could put a 5th one on, but I'm not going to, just to give us that kind of bottleneck. Not bottleneck, just to give us that kind of safety. So I'm going to get all these connected in. Oops, that is not how you do cable. And that's not how you do cable either. There we go. Oh, that's not how you do cable. There we go.
What are you doing?
Okay, so I got my power generation. Now you put whatever you want on this cable, okay? If I wanted to, I could put 20 of these turbines on. But that could blow the cable. So what you want to be trying...
Will it only blow the cable if the battery is requesting
Yes.
more than the cable?
Yeah. But obviously the battery will request as much as it needs to charge itself up.
That's what you need to limit.
That's what we need to limit. Those batteries cannot request more from this than what is needed. So one
But
way...
it'd be a waste though, wouldn't it? What's the point in having 1 million turbines on this if you're only requesting so much?
Because... yes, it's a waste, but if you had 100 of these turbines, you would be generating a large amount of power even not during a storm. Okay? As long as you're limiting it, then during the storm it doesn't matter. It's not going to blow your system because you're restricting how much powering through. So
yeah, but aren't you wasting it then because you're not getting the power?
You waste, yeah, but if all your batteries are full and you don't need more batteries, then it doesn't really matter. They are there if you need them, but yeah, if you've got nowhere to put the power, it doesn't matter if you waste it or not. In the early game, it matters. Like, you want to get as many station batteries as you feel comfortable with. When the storm comes, you want to capture every second of that power. Because it's free. You just want to get it, but you need to do it safely. So, regardless of how many turbines we've got here, we know that this cable can only handle 100 kilowatts. So the first thing that you'd think about doing is, okay, well, what I'll do is let me put a transformer there, a transformer there. The reason you think about doing 2 is because the maximum these will allow to go through is 50 kilowatts.
So would these then feed into your battery?
Yes, but I want to show you something. So obviously these are both set to the maximum, which is only 50 kilowatts, which is half of what a heavy cable can do. Which is why you might think about putting 2, because if each transformer can take 50, that's 100, I know this cable here is going to be safe. And that is the case. This cable will be safe if you put 2 of these together. So we could cable these up using the wand, because then I don't need the wire cutters. So if I did that, and that'll work. Okay, that cable
Why
works
would you do that? Why would you use
because
2 and not 1?
this cable can handle 100 kilowatt.
So you've split it 50-50?
I've not split this cable. What I'm
No, the
doing,
transformers.
yeah, each transformer is going to bring through half of what this cable can handle, up to its maximum. So that way you think, oh, I'm not wasting any power. I can use 2 transformers, put 50 kilowatts from this one, 50 kilowatts from this one. I can provide 100 kilowatts to my base. And that does work. However, because of how the game calculates power, this is actually doubling your power generation. Because each transformer will pull from this cable. And it doesn't care that the other transformer is pulling it as well. It just looks at, okay, I can pull through 50 kilowatts. I'm going to pull 50 kilowatts. If my turbines are only generating 50, then what you'd think would happen would that this transformer might pull the 50, and the transformer goes, oh, there's no power left, I can't. Doesn't do that. Both transformers will pull through 50, even if you're only generating 50 as a total. It's a bit of a bug, and they'll probably fix it at some other point. But by doing this setup, you effectively double your power. You're duplicating it.
So how do you limit it then to 100 if you only got 50 kilowatt?
You can't in this setup. What you would, if to avoid that issue, you would need to split your power network. So, for example, what you could do is, if I was to cut the cable here, I've got these 2 turbines separate to these 2 turbines. I would then move that transformer. So let me do that now. You put this here, and then connect that one up. Okay. So I now have 2 power networks, both feeding into a single cable. That will not duplicate your power.
Sake.
What's wrong?
Just seems like a lot of fucking work.
It's not though, is it? I've got one network over here generating power. I've got another network over here generating power. My advice is, if you want to avoid the exploit, set it up like this, and then combine both of those into a single cable. That's fine.
So when you said earlier that you can put like 4 of the normal wind turbines on heavy cable, you can't actually.
No, you can. I could put another 2 turbines over here.
But then you can't limit it to the battery.
What?
But then you can't use your.
Okay. With the this is a bit of a bad example, I guess. Let me do it a little bit different, see if it makes sense. So I'm going to take these turbines up. Okay, we're not going to use not turbines. Sorry, we're not going to use the transformers. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to connect
But then what if you?
Wait.
Ugh.
So, with these 4 turbines, I know that at any one time, they are not going to generate more than 80 kilowatts. Okay, because during a storm, this turbine can generate 20 kilowatts, this turbine can generate 20. This cable can handle 100. So without a transformer, this will be fine. Even if I put a battery on the end. Okay. Where's my wand? If I did...
Oh, so that will be fine because you're not generating more than your battery's gonna...
Yeah, obviously, the potential doesn't cause the issue. The actual is where the issue stems. So if I turn this battery on, that's going to start charging. And if you have a look at the cable, obviously the battery wants 9 megawatts. That's what's required. If it could, that battery would pull 9 megawatts on this cable.
But it's only going to be able to pull the potential.
Yeah, it can only ever pull the potential. The actual is what will blow the cable. As long as that actual doesn't go above 100 kilowatts, this cable is perfectly fine. And as you can see, as that battery charges, look, the required is coming down. there you go. We've got to 1.2 kilowatts coming through, and it's just taking all of it. Here we have no transformer, and there's no need for the transformer as long as we don't put another turbine on this cable.
But then what about the power that is requested from the battery?
What do you mean?
So even if something's requesting from the battery, the
The
battery
most
will pull.
the most this battery can pull is whatever is being generated on this line. So on the output of the battery, if I was requesting 200 kilowatts, it doesn't matter because the actual is what will blow the cable. And as long as the actual does not go above 100 kilowatt, you won't have any issues whatsoever.
But like you showed me earlier,
Mm-hmm.
where the APCs are pulling more, so both sides blue.
Yep.
Does that not happen on the battery? If something's trying to pull too much power from the battery, does that not?
It can only pull what's available. So the reason we had the blow earlier was because the battery was full, and effectively that battery would be happy to provide 9 megawatts of power. So we were requesting 5.1 kilowatts. The battery was like, yeah, fine, have 5.1 kilowatts, and it would blow.
The actual
The actual is where the
can never
problem.
be any higher than the potential on this side.
The 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 potential can be whatever we want it to be. That potential could be 500 kilowatts if you wanted. The actual needs to not go above the limit of the cable.
Yeah, but if we've only put four wind turbines on,
Mm-hmm.
the actual can't go any higher because the potential won't.
Oh
Because we've
yeah,
only got four
the
wind
actual
turbines.
physically can't go above because it's only ever going to provide 80 kilowatts.
Okay.
So the potential and the actual are always going to be the same until that battery becomes fully charged. When the battery is fully charged, the potential will be whatever it is. The actual will be much lower because the battery will only draw whatever's required. So if basically when that required hits the actual, you'll start seeing the actual go less than the potential. That makes sense?
Yeah, but it can't go the other way because the potential's not there.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes
Without the
sense.
potential, you've got no actual.
So why in this instance would you use a
In this instance,
transformer?
there's no need because we know that only 4 turbines is not going to blow this cable. It can't. The turbines can only go up to 20 kilowatts. There's physically not enough potential there to blow the cable. If
So
your base needed more power, what you could do is, I'm going to go put another turbine on this cable. At that point, if your battery is empty and you start providing 100 kilowatts, that battery will draw 100 kilowatts. That's when your problem starts doing. That's when you're going to start thinking, I need a transformer in there. I need to protect that cable. But when you add the transformer, the biggest one you can add is only 50 kilowatt, which means you're wasting 50 kilowatt. Or you're not taking its full potential. So at that point, you would go, okay, I need to split my power networks.
that makes sense.
So what I would say is here we've got the 4 turbines, and to be honest, I wouldn't put anything on this myself. If you had to put anything on it, make sure you are not going to go above 100 kilowatts at its maximum peak. So currently we're at about 80 at its maximum. So you could add some solar panels. You could probably add 1, maybe 2 upright wind turbines, but that would be its maximum. Now, when we're talking about its peak, that's during a storm. So what you'll find, it's a bit annoying. It's just how it works. There is, I'm looking at this cable and I'm thinking, I know this cable can handle 100 kilowatt, but I'm never putting more than 5 kilowatt through it. Why am I bothering? Why don't I just put more stuff on it and then just disconnect the stuff during a storm? Do that if you want. If you want to use this cable to its maximum capacity, chuck whatever the hell you want on it. But just be cautious that if that storm hits and you've forgotten to do anything, it's going to blow your cable. I mean, you're going to waste the entire storm if you don't go and fix it. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's not expensive to make heavy cable in the mid game. It's just a bit of gold and copper. So there's nothing stopping you from just using heavy cable everywhere on this side of the battery. So don't worry about the waste. Don't worry about, oh, I could put another 98 kilowatt on that cable. Why? It's there as a contingency. It doesn't matter. If I wanted to improve this at any point now, obviously, if I was being safe, I wouldn't do anything to this. I would leave this alone. And what I would do, because I know that the requirement of the battery is higher than my potential, there's no point in even connecting another battery to this, because I'm not gaining anything from that. That's only really going to be a positive thing to do if this battery fills up. But then if you drain all the power, both batteries are empty, you're in exactly the same state.
So you would just have the 4 turbines to this one battery?
Yeah, and until that battery's full, there's no point in me changing this. If I wanted to, I could put multiple batteries on here. That's absolutely fine. But I'm not going to massively benefit from that in the short term. If I do this and connect all those batteries to it, fine, I can do that. If we just go for...
Would they ever fill up realistically?
It depends on the how much power your base is using. I mean, eventually, yes, they would fill, as long as my base power usage doesn't exceed the amount of power that I'm storing. You can see that they're all flashing, so they're all kind of gaining a little bit of power. If you look at your cable, you'll see that all of those batteries are trying to request 9 megawatts. So as a total, we're trying to request 35 megawatt. But our actual potential doesn't change.
Because we're not actually like making any more hour than the potential.
So again, this is safe. This isn't going to blow. All you're doing is you're creating some long-term storage, and it would probably be a very long time until you saw those batteries fill. I know that if the storm hits, I'm not going to generate more than 80 kilowatts. So again, I know this is safe. So you could put a gazillion batteries on this if you want to. The better way of doing this, because obviously we are wasting these batteries. This isn't ideal. So what I would do myself is I would split the input. I would have those two batteries pulling from their own power grid.
So this is what I was going to ask you. So say you've got 4 here plugged into one battery.
Yep.
That's fine. On heavy cable.
Yep.
So then the next 4, would they have to go into its own battery?
They don't have to, but I would. Because during a storm, each of those batteries is going to get the full potential of that storm. If we left it
Same for like if you had one with X amount of solar panels on, with X amount of wind turbines, whatever, just didn't make the max.
Yeah.
At storm.
Yeah, the potential needs to be below the limit of the cable. That's it. So each battery is more than capable of pulling the full potential of this cable. So the safety comes from not putting more power generation on the cable than what it can handle. Instead of using a transformer, you're just reducing what you're putting here. And that's it. And then you just set it up however you think makes sense. Because in my head, having 4 of these turbines going into one battery makes sense to me. So then all I've got 4 batteries here. So all I want is I want another 4 turbines going to that battery. I want 4 turbines going to that battery. And I want 4 turbines going to that battery. It's an absolute waste sometimes. But during a storm, I'm going to capture all of that potential.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that is how I would personally do it.
So say each of these, so say this is plugged into 16 turbines, 4 on each. On this side,
yep.
Do you then have a transformer on each of the batteries?
So it depends on how your base is going to be set up. So one thing I've got into the habit of doing is I've never had a base request more than 100 kilowatts of power. I haven't had it. I've not reached that point. So I would personally, because you've got 4 batteries and their throughput, there's no limit, they will push out as much power as that is requested. So I guess technically what you could do is you could have 2 of the batteries connected to each other. Like so. Oh, I need some more cable. Where's my sonic screwdriver? On the floor. You could do that and plug this cable into a transformer. We know that these batteries will output a total of 18 megawatts, with 9 per battery. We don't want that on this heavy cable, it'll blow. So you put a single transformer here, and out of these 2 here, you put a single transformer here as well. And then those 2 transformers you combine into a single cable. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
The only reason we're doing it like this is because of that weird bug that Stationeers has. Realistically, it wouldn't duplicate your power. It would calculate what each transformer is pulling, deduct it from what's available, and then only provide what's left. That's the only reason we're doing it like this. If you wanted to, connect all 4 of these batteries together and put 2 transformers in parallel connected, but that's going to duplicate your power. So you're technically cheating. If you want to avoid it, this is really the only way of doing it. I mean, others might disagree with that. They might say, no, do it a different way. But in my head, 2 transformers pulling from separate networks, but then after that, combine them. So if I do this now, that cable, assuming I set up
So the
both...
transformers would be the 50 kilowatt transformers, the big ones.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So now what we've done is if I turn both these transformers on, obviously they're not going to glow green because we're not requesting any power. But we've created a system here where this heavy cable now has the potential of 100 kilowatts.
Without duplicating anything.
And if you look at the cable, you can see that potential of 100 kilowatt. That is the maximum that cable can hold.
So what would happen now if all these 4 batteries are full and you had to add another one?
What, another battery?
Mhm.
Add another battery.
But then
To either
where does it
side.
plug into?
It doesn't matter. To either side, and you just copy. So you would have the input from this battery. Obviously, you might do like another 4 turbines, or you might reuse your turbines. It doesn't matter. And then here, just plug them into this transformer. It makes no difference. Because you're limiting what's going through anyway. Now,
So you could always put as many batteries as you want just going through these 2 transformers.
yeah.
Okay.
If you had a base that was going to use more than 100 kilowatts, at that point you would split your transformer. So then maybe you have another pair of transformers. Create limited to a second 100 kilowatt. And then that's like another line that you have going through your base. But I genuinely have not encountered that. I've not needed more than that amount of power. It's not been an issue. And then from this, what I would do is that heavy cable would run through my base, and I would have the small transformers feeding to like each room, each group of machines, 5 kilowatt per room. If you need a bit more, use the medium. It doesn't matter. Just remember that you won't be able to request more than 100 kilowatt off this line.
So if it was more than 100 kilowatt.
If you need more than 100 kilowatt, then you need to add another couple of transformers. But not to these batteries.
But I'd have like separate line. So somewhere would have its own line going in, not the separate to this line.
Yes. So this line must not take any more input of power.
Okay.
Because it's already at its full potential. If those batteries are fully charged, you could pull 100 kilowatt off this line. And that is pretty much it. So as we've discussed, obviously, this side is where the most important is. You need to just manage your potential. That's the problem. You can never pull more than the potential. As long as your potential doesn't hit the limit of the cable, you're perfectly fine. You're perfectly safe. And then you just kind of because of the limitations of the game, you have to set up this in a certain way in which you're not going to duplicate your power. I mean, if you want to duplicate your power, go for it. It doesn't matter. If that's how you want to play, that's how you want to play. Now I know of that, I will not be doing it going forward because it's cheating. We've where we've struggled for power in the past, but we've been duplicating it. We've not been managing our power networks properly, and that's something that we need to learn how to do.
Well, the problem was we was obviously duplicating, but then also just constantly running out of power. So it
Yeah,
was
which
actually using
means
twice as much as we was creating.
yeah, exactly.
Shit,
So
really, innit?
yeah, we were doing a really shit job. So that's something that we just need to figure out and learn by ourselves.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So have you got any questions on anything else that we've covered on the stuff?
I don't think so.
I know it's all very basic. We've not gone through coding the solar panels. We've not gone through like optimizing transformers, turn them on and off or whatever. But that stuff is stuff that you will play with when there's a need for it. I'm not going to go through that. This is very basic. Based on what we've covered, you should be able to build a power network for your base without
It's all
much of
really
an issue.
basic, and we've probably been through it when we was doing like the Mars or something. But I can't watch our videos back because I don't like my voice.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
So you just have to keep telling them.
But yeah, set up a system like this, and you should be you're safe. You're pretty golden. The bits where you think, oh, it's a waste, but it's safety.
So say you're doing your power generation on heavy cable.
Mm-hmm.
You can use any combination of solar panels, turbines, etc. As long as at peak it doesn't go over the 10,000 watt of the heavy cable.
100,000 watt.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100
100
kilowatt.
kilowatt.
Yeah, exactly. Your potential should never be the higher than the limit of the cable. That's the rule.
Okay, I get it.
You good?
I think so.
Boom. Okay, well, we'll see. So she wanted this small tutorial just for a single player save, so we'll see how that goes. If something explodes, then obviously she didn't listen properly.
Sure,
But yeah, so to anyone watching, thank you. Hopefully, I mean, this isn't going to help people like seasoned players. They've been playing it for ages. They know how this works. But to any new players, hopefully this will have been of some assistance. But if not, let me know. I'm kind of doing these tutorials kind of like an idiot's guide made by an idiot. Is basically what this is. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to go through. I'm happy to. Otherwise, I will be waiting for Sophie to tell me when she needs some assistance, and we'll just create the tours as and when.
Cooling, I think, would be a good one for me.
Yeah, you wanted cooling and you wanted gas, didn't you?
Because there's like different radiators and stuff, isn't there?
Yes. So we can go
And I
through
know
them.
it's in the Stationpedia and people have already got videos on it, but I struggle to watch videos, and I just feel like it's easier someone explaining it to me than me just trying to read
Yeah,
it.
and I feel like we're both on the same wavelength. So like, I'm thick, you're thick. Let's be thick together and
Thanks.
just work our way through it. But yeah, to anyone watching, thank you. I appreciate your time. Like I said, let me know if this was of any help, and I'd be happy to do more. And yeah, until next time, take care, and we will see you then. Bye.